After Colorado's blowout loss to Utah, a lot of people are putting Deion Sanders on the hot seat. But I got to tell you, he's not going anywhere.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on a moment of the craziness, because it's getting crazy in Boulder. We're going to talk about the coaching staff problems and why I think Deion Sanders needs to make some major moves on his staff for this program to have success for years to come. I'm going to talk about the leadership issues that Colorado's been having. And then I'm going to tell you why Julian Lewis needs to take over and just end the Kaidon Salter experiment once and for all. But let's dive into the coaching problems. So if you guys don't know, Colorado is absolutely obliterated, blasted, embarrassed by Utah over the weekend, right? Utah starts a true freshman quarterback, which a little bit dishonesty on the injury report. It's neither here nor there. It didn't matter. They probably could have started a rock at wide receiver, and it wouldn't have mattered because they went on to win 53-7. And coming out of that game, I think we just learned all of the problems that Colorado's had, or not learned because we could see this coming, but Colorado's had some clear problems, and a lot of people are pointing the finger at Deion Sanders. Obviously, he's the head coach. He's the biggest name, and people want him fired. And Deion Sanders isn't going anywhere, right? He just signed an extension to be one of the highest paid coaches in college football. His buyout is, I believe, $33 million. He's not going anywhere. Plus, I think he deserves a little bit of grace considering he led Colorado to their best record since 2016 a year ago. And he also led them to their first bowl game since 2020, right? People forget where Colorado was in the realm of college football. That being said, Deion Sanders needs to make some tough decisions with his staff. So I went through each and every one of the key staff positions for Colorado, and I looked into the backgrounds, right? Because I think the biggest criticism that I have for Deion Sanders right now is that he is more focused on building this team as if it's an NFL program, or an NFL team, and forgetting that's a college football program. And he's hiring guys who have little to no experience coaching at the college football level, recruiting at the college football level. And I think we're seeing some of those issues. Now, I would say there's three guys who I've been somewhat impressed with. We'll go 3.5. Robert Livingston he's not been impressive this year, but again, it goes down to money. I don't think Colorado moves on from him because of the extension. He has shown that his defense could be really good, right? Colorado led the Big 12 in sacks last year. But again, it goes with Coach Prime's sort of issue of like, are you building an NFL staff, or are you building a staff that can succeed at the college football level? Because it's two different things. It's two different jobs. We need to stop pretending like getting 300 years of NFL experience actually means something at the college football level, because it doesn't. It really doesn't, right? You look at like a program like Alabama. Ryan Grubb left to the NFL because he wanted to be an NFL coordinator, got fired, comes back, and now Alabama has one of the best offenses in college football, right? You look at who has success in college football, very rarely is it someone who's like, oh, this guy had dozens of years of experience in that. I mean, look at Bill Belichick. They have literally patented their team to be the 33rd NFL team, and they're a joke, right? So let's get rid of this nonsense of like, oh, we have tons of NFL experience, which means you're going to succeed here, right? You could still prepare guys to go to the NFL without having guys who have never coached a college football and only have NFL experience. So Robert Livingston had over a decade of NFL experience, but zero experience in college football coaching. Pat Shurmur, the offensive coordinator, he needs to go. I've said this for about a month or so now. He's uninspiring. He obviously has no idea what he's doing with Kaidon Salter. The offense has taken steps backwards. And honestly, if you look at last year, I think you could say the offense underperformed with the weapons he had, right? I think Pat Shurmur has been the safe pick, and I think he's sort of reaped the rewards of having a talented roster like last year. But this year he's been exposed, right? Made no adjustments. Did not help Kaidon Salter at all. Kaidon Salter was getting blitzed to death. I think Kaidon Salter, he's probably eating lunch right now at a local restaurant. He probably just got sacked again, right? Because Pat Shurmur has done nothing to help him out. They've done nothing to cater the offense to his skill set, and they've pretty much wasted the final year of his career, and they wasted all the talent that they brought in, right? Because the offense is faltering. They've taken a step back. Also, Pat Shurmur was not a success by any means at the NFL level. And in terms of college, he hadn't coached at the college ranks since 1998. For reference, I was born in 99. And I'm older than majority, if not all, of these college football players now, right? There's some stragglers from those 6-year guys that are around my age, but hasn't coached at the college level for 27 years. And you're telling me that all of a sudden he's going to figure it out, even though he couldn't figure it out at the NFL level? No. Pat Shurmur needs to go. You need to bring in someone who's offensive minded. Take a flyer on someone from a smaller school, right? Obviously, Brendan Marion is he's a head coach now at Sac State, but you want someone like Brendan Marion, where they're young, they're innovative, they're cool, they can recruit, right? Joe Brady called plays for LSU back in the day. Obviously, you're not going to go out and get him, but like you want someone like that, right? Garrett Riley when he was at TCU. You want someone who's up and coming, young and exciting, right? And Colorado's not that. Brett Bartolone is one of the few guys. Honestly, if you want to hire within from your offensive coordinator role, because I feel like Deion Sanders has an affinity for guys that have worked for him, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Brett Bartolone would be my pick. All right. He called plays at Jackson State. Shedeur Sanders was the MVP that year that he called plays. And he also helped mentor Carson Strong at Nevada, right? He has experience. Carson Strong, for those of you that don't remember, was a really good quarterback. Injuries derailed his career. But Brett Bartolone, I think, should be the play caller, right? I think you need a new voice in there. I don't know why Deion Sanders was so willing to move on from Sean Lewis, but is so attached to the hip to Pat Shurmur. I don't get it. Kevin Mathis, the corners coach. The corners have dramatically gotten worse this year, right? They are, it's hard to pinpoint a weakness on this team because I feel like there's so many, honestly. And I think a lot of this comes down to coaching, but they have been atrocious. The corners have taken a step back. DJ McKinney entered the year as a projected first-round pick. If you go, and I know these pre-draft rankings don't necessarily, they're not the Bible, right? We're not going, oh my gosh, ESPN's whoever released their pre-draft rankings and DJ McKinney's number one, but he has gone from basically a projected first to nowhere to be found in these top 10 corner rankings, right? DJ McKinney has completely had a down year. I think we have not seen what we were expecting from Preston Hodge. I think we have not seen what we were expecting from Tion Parks, Tyrekus Davis. I don't understand what they're doing. If we're being completely honest with, I just feel like these guys they're struggling, right? These are Colorado's top corners. DJ McKinney has the highest grade overall, and he ranks 412th. He has a 64.6 coverage grade, which is the highest on the team in terms of corners that have played the snap minimum. RJ Johnson is, if you want to ignore the snap minimum, RJ Johnson has a 70.2. Ivan Yates, who got the start this past week, 60.4, 54 from Makari Vickers. He ranks 822nd. Preston Hodge ranks 842nd with a 49.6 coverage grade. Tyrekus Davis has barely played, 48.6. He's a veteran, though. We'll like to see him play. And then Tion Parks, 867th. So your best corner isn't even in the best 300 corners in college football in terms of coverage grade, in terms of just overall success, right? If you look at the resume of Coach Mathis, had never coached anywhere before at the college level before Coach Prime hired him. He'd coached at Trinity, which was the school that Deion Sanders' kids played at and where Deion Sanders got started coaching, or at least coached most recently before Jackson State. And then he went to Jackson State with Coach Prime. Now, I think there's been some bright moments with Colorado's corners. Obviously, Travis Hunter. But let's be real. Travis Hunter was the number one overall recruit. At Jackson State, they just had more talented rosters than everyone. And I think that seems to be playing more of a role than anything, because even the year before, outside of Travis Hunter in 2023, Colorado's corners were awful, right? They had taken in a couple Florida State guys that didn't work out. They had taken in a couple guys from here and there, Alabama, Auburn, that didn't work out, right? You need to make changes. Gunnar White, I doubted him. He had some experience, though. I think the offense line has been one of the few bright spots. So in terms of yay or nay, he's getting a yay. He gets to stay. Andre Hart, linebackers coach. The linebackers are, nothing short of atrocious this year. They can't tackle. They are constantly missing assignments. They are terrible against the run. Colorado's unit as a whole is, when you go from Nakai Hill-Green and Levante Bentley to this, it's quite jarring. It is, if we're being completely honest, because you kind of had a good core last year and you had an opportunity to go out and in the portal. That's your thing, right? You guys are the portal team. Go out and get some good transfer portal players. Jeremiah Brown went from like third string to starter, right? And you look at the guys that they brought in. Overall grades, Sean Myers is a 65.6. Kaidon Salter, he's barely played, albeit he's played 11 total snaps on defense. Jeremiah Brown has played 314 snaps, 66.2 cover or 66.2 grade overall. Run defense 78.4. Montrez Walker has played 2 defensive snaps. He's a recruit. Can't expect a lot from him. Reggie Hughes, 374 snaps, 53.5 grade overall, 739th graded linebacker in college football. Run defense grade of 57.8, 37.8 in coverage. Martavius French, who I was high on at first. I mean, he's been benched, obviously. 288 snaps, 48.9 coverage grade. And depth is a problem. And I said depth was going to be a problem in the offseason, and I got blasted. Everyone's like, you don't know what you're talking about. The linebackers are just fine. They're not just fine, right? And I think it starts with Coach Hart, right? Because if you are going to not attack this position relentlessly in the portal, you need to have some great coaching to coach them up. And it's not what happened. So you have on this staff, you have Hart. I mean, Marshall Faulk, technically, I think the running backs have been pretty solid by all accounts. You have Hart, Marshall Faulk, Kevin Mathis, who have never coached before. And you just bring them on and you have them at these key positions that are clearly struggling outside of Coach Marshall Faulk. And then Coach Pecco, really solid player, played in the NFL for over a decade, has never coached before. And now he's coaching your interior defensive linemen, and you're getting bullied every week, right? I think Coach Prime needs to stop with this focus on like, hey, I'm going to bring in a staff with 1,000 combined years of NFL experience and bring in guys who know what they're doing at the college football level, whether it comes to recruiting, development, and coaching, right? Colorado has, and I think this is partially true, like outside of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, I think this roster is, for the most part, I don't know. I would say this roster is as close to being as talented or pretty on par with last year's. That being said, they've regressed dramatically, right? Coach Prime admitted after the game they got out-coached, right? So if you're getting out-coached week in and week out, you have to make adjustments. I don't think Coach Prime's on the hot seat. That being said, I think a lot of members on his staff should be, and I think he needs to clean house in order to turn things around and save face. When we come back, we're going to talk about the leadership problems that Colorado's had. But first, a quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets could feel like more of a battle than the game itself. There's endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout, and that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, so that way you don't miss out on any of our coverage, because I think a lot of moves are going to be made. I'm talking about some of these moves because I think they're going to happen, right? I don't think Pat Shurmur, based on what I'm being told, Pat Shurmur is not going to be the offensive coordinator next year. At least that's what the vibe is around the people that I've been talking to. Let's talk this past game. So they lose 53-7. And I think this was a prime example of leadership problems, right? Coach Prime talked about guys who didn't make it back in time for the bye week, right? And they didn't play, right? Joseph Williams, the team's second leading receiver, didn't play. Omarion Miller, he only played, let's see, I think he sat out the entire, first half. 31 snaps for him. Disappointing, right? That's a leadership problem, right? And I think before I just single guys out, well, let's just discuss it from a whole. I think what Deion Sanders is doing in terms of trying to build these guys into young men is great. I think the fact that Colorado's had no legal issues in his 3 years is great, right? I think a lot of people wanted there to be issues just because of, the reasons. But Coach Prime has a strong culture in the sense of like guys, they keep them on the straight and narrow. That being said, Colorado had a leadership problem this year. And I think part of that is replacing Shador and Travis and Cameron Simon Craig and Shiloh and all these guys, right? Not only are you replacing talented players, but you just lost a chunk, if not all of your leadership from a year ago, right? The hard part about bringing in 30 plus transfers per year is the fact that you're bringing in 30 to 40 guys who are not a part of the program last year. They don't understand what the coaches are preaching. Obviously, Coach Prime had the health issues in the offseason, which, not his fault. He was battling cancer. Not his fault at all. But you have so many moving pieces that when you have Jordan Seaton, who was a true freshman last year, mind you, and he's a great leader. I'm not going to take that away from him. But name me someone outside of Jordan Seaton who has been a good representation of this program that has been here. He's it, right? Tafik Byard has emerged as a leader this year. I think you could argue that maybe Ben Finiseth has been a part of the program. I don't know if he's necessarily in a leader role, but like Colorado has had so much turnover that it's hard to develop leadership. And I also think that comes with how these players are coached in a way. And that goes back to the NFL thing. Deion Sanders wants to run this program like it's an NFL team. And he's giving these guys the freedom to do whatever. Like, hey, be back Sunday at 11 and we'll be fine. And like, guys don't come back. These are college kids, right? Yes, they are adults by age, but maturity wise, no, right? Because if you think about it, college athletes, well, specifically college football players, many of them have not been in this real world yet. Yes, some of them have dealt with great adversity. Some of them have dealt with a lot of things that some of us will never have dealt with as young adults. That being said, as young athletes, they are put on this pedestal and they have never been held accountable for their actions. And I think Coach Prime, I admire him for sitting them. I mean, it takes balls, right? Because it's like, hey, you just sat two of our best players and we lost. I mean, I don't think they would have made that much of a difference, but you have to admire that he stays true to his word. And I told you he would, right? I said he benched Shiloh for the SWAC championship game. So don't get it twisted that he's not going to bench two guys who are his sons for a regular season game, right? But you can't treat these guys like full-on adults yet because they're not ready to be full-on adults, right? There's a reason they need regiment. They need to be like, okay, you go back or you it's the bye week. Leave on Tuesday, be back Thursday, right? So that way Friday, when we have a meeting at 8 a.m., we're all there. That's not what happened, right? I think that's a problem. I think for lack of a better, I think some of the issues that they've had with Kaidon Salter off the field have hurt. I think that Kaidon Salter coming in as a fifth-year senior, and we're still talking about his leadership abilities 7 games into the season, shows that he's probably not the leader Colorado was hoping they'd get after having a Shador Sanders, right? Because I've talked to players. I mean, Jordan Dominic comes on the podcast every week. He'll be on the show tomorrow. He talked about during his time at Colorado, it was hard not to stay in line because the team's 2 best players, Shador and Travis, were leading by example. They did everything right. They watched film. They weren't late to anything. They practiced hard, right? I don't think Colorado has those guys this year, and they don't have the guys that the team gravitate towards. And I talked about Jordan Seaton, right? Jordan Seaton's not a quarterback. He's not a receiver. He's not a defensive back. He's not a linebacker, right? At the end of the day, an offensive lineman can only lead by example so much because it's like you're in a different position group, so guys don't always respond to you. And that's just the way life goes. Jordan Dominic, told me the same thing. He's basically said, if it's not the sexy positions, it's hard for the guys to gravitate toward them because it's like they are a leader, but they're not the main guy, if you know what I mean. So you have guys showing up late. You have a quarterback who has talked about how hard it is to lead. The video surfacing, it's on X right now of him getting the play call, and he makes the disgusted face and is like, what are we doing? The video of him arguing with Coach Prime on the sideline over a play call, right? Maybe he's just not been the leader that Colorado needed, right? There's that. I think there is also leadership issues, and we probably should have realized this a while ago and I know Coach Prime loves and adores Mata, and I think Alejandro Mata is probably a great kid. I've only had a couple interactions with him when I made my trips out to Boulder, but he is someone that he's a kicker. Why is your kicker lecturing the team? Right? I think it's one thing when last year is like Mata talked to the team, of course, but you had Wester, Hunter, Cameron Simon Craig, Shiloh Sanders, Shador Sanders, BJ Green, right? You had all of these guys who was like leader at this position, leader at this position. And then, of course, Coach Prime loves himself some Mata. So Mata will talk here and there. We've been seeing videos of Mata like chewing the team out for not doing stuff, right? And I think when a kicker is one of your core leaders, and it's not just because like he's beloved, it's because he has the respect. That means guys on the other team or guys on the team elsewhere don't have the respect, right? So Colorado has a leadership problem. I think coaches probably need to be a bit more harder on these players. And I think it comes down to the transfer portal stuff. I think after 3 years, we could effectively say that the transfer portal method of just completely revamping your roster every year through the portal doesn't always work, right? It's hit or miss. The offensive line was terrible year one. You had some good receivers, right? You had Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn, Travis Hunter. I mean, Travis Hunter wasn't through the portal, but offensive line didn't work. Defensive line didn't work. Corners didn't work, right? Safeties was all right. Last year, offensive line, bad. Wide receivers, great. Defensive line, good. Linebackers, really good. Secondary, really good. This year, offensive line, really good. Borderline, great. Now, obviously, they just had their worst game. Quarterback, not so good. Wide receivers, pretty solid. Tight end, don't use them, which is disappointing. That's another thing with Pat Shurmur. You got one of the best tight ends in the portal. Don't use them at all. Nice. Defensive line, not very good. Right? Linebackers, not very good. Corners, not very good. Right? It's just so hard to sustain success when you're bringing in the offensive line had 4 new starters. The defensive line, I believe, is entirely brand new. Outside of Arden Walker, Brandon Davis Swain kind of steps in here and there, but you bring in Jaheim Otis, right? You bring in Tavion Coleman, Gabriel Lightfoot. Obviously, those guys are injured. You're lacking depth. Linebackers, you brought in new linebackers. They didn't work out. Corners, you brought in some new corners. It didn't work out, right? You have to be able to recruit at a high level. And I know people are like, oh, recruiting doesn't, just because you recruit doesn't mean you win championships. It does mean you win championships, right? If Colorado wants to win championships, they have to recruit at an elite level, right? The teams that are winning championships, go look at the blue chip ratio. The teams that win championships, 50% of their roster is 4 or 5-star guys that they recruited. The success is there. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this isn't LSU. This isn't Florida. No, it's not. I'm not going to pretend that Colorado is an SEC program. It's not in this talent-rich area, but you have Deion Sanders, right? Deion Sanders, with a good staff around him, should be able to recruit the best of them. I hate to break it to you, but all of these like big programs, these big powerhouses, most of them reside in the middle of nowhere, right? Like Tuscaloosa is not like a hotbed of just like excitement. It's Tuscaloosa, Alabama, right? Austin, Texas, I mean, big city, so they don't count. But Penn State, very much a college town. Like there's just so many examples of like you could recruit play. Like Indiana had been nothing, right? But good coaching, good evaluations, and good development can get you far away. Indiana's ranked number 2 in the country right now. So you need to figure out a way to improve your players' leaderships. And I think that starts with adjusting how you build your rosters. And I think that also means you have to adjust how you coach these guys. When we come back, I'm going to talk about why it should be Julian Lewis's time to have the keys that Shador handed him. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel, the NBA back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to next fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow so you don't miss out on any of the coverage because we're going to be covering a lot. Let's talk Julian Lewis, right? Kaidon Salter, I think good quarterback, bad fit, terrible fit, right? I think Pat Shurmur is to blame. I think the evaluators who assumed that like they would adjust stuff to blame everyone's to blame here, right? It just didn't work out. And sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. And I think Colorado fans had such a high standard because they literally watched the best quarterback or one of the best quarterbacks in college football play for the past 2 years. But this is according to PFF, shared by Scott Proctor. When under pressure this season, Kaidon Salter is completing 28% of his passes, 110 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 6 turnover-worthy plays. Right? Kaidon Salter cannot handle pressure, and after Saturday, teams are like, "Dude, we're just going to blitz the hell out of him." Right? Colorado had negative 17 yards of offense in the first half. That's literally insane. I didn't even know that. Like, I knew that was possible, but I didn't know that was possible. If you know what I mean. Like, you at home had more yards, but Kaidon Salter isn't working out, and at this point, I think Colorado, obviously a bowl game still in play, but I think you're playing more for than just a bowl game. You're playing for pride, and you're playing to preserve the semblance of your vision, right? Deion Sanders, you have Jordan Seaton, you have Juju Lewis, you have some of these guys, London Merritt, Alexander McPherson, right? You have these young guys who you need to be good, and you need to stay a part of the program, because don't think programs aren't going to be like, hey, Juju, like, is that Colorado thing really working out for you? We'll give you a couple mil, come this way, you'll start, you'll have a better team, blah, blah, blah. People are going to do that. These guys are going to be tampered with like nobody's business. Julian Lewis needs to start because, one, I think we've just seen what Kaidon Salter's ceiling is, and that is at least with Colorado, a decent quarterback against bad teams, who's capable of bright moments, but more likely than not is going to make a soul-crushing mistake. Colorado has 4 games left. I think Arizona, West Virginia, and Kansas State, I think 3 out of the 4 are extremely winnable. I think Colorado, if they don't give up on the season, should win 3 out of their last 4. Now, that's a big if, because I wasn't loving the energy I saw from the sidelines. We already saw that Deion Sanders was calling people out for quitting. So I don't know how much fight this team has left. That being said, these are winnable games. They are. And so I'm looking at this Arizona game, and I'm like, okay, you have to be able to win this game. You have to. And I don't think Kaidon Salter is the right answer anymore, right? Put Juju Lewis in. He's had all year to get reps. He's had all year to get experience. And yes, he's had some moments in practices clearly where it's like, hey, you're not leading correctly, but give the guy a shot, right? Bird Ficklin, he got reps with the first team, and then he started. He seemed all right, right? You have to give him the quality reps, and you have to give him the quality teaching. And I think Juju Lewis is better for Pat Shurmur's system because he's not going to change it. And Kaidon Salter doesn't fit in it, but Juju Lewis is more like Shedeur Sanders than Kaidon Salter is. So give the freshman a shot. Show him you believe in him. Be like, hey, turn our season around. Get us to a bowl game. Generate some excitement for us. And also keep him happy, right? You need a future of the program. And I don't think I understand if you go to Ryan Staub, and I understand there's cases to be made for all, right? Kaidon Salter at this point is like, just ride it out, see what happens. Maybe he'll win us some games, maybe he won't. Ryan Staub, it's like the team loves him. He pushes the ball downfield. He's a better fit. And then Julian Lewis is the future, also a better fit than Kaidon Salter. I get the points for all of them, but I think Julian Lewis is the most important player in that room. And I think you should be catering to him more so than the other guys. So let me know what you guys think. Should Colorado bench Kaidon Salter? Should they go to Julian Lewis? I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I will see you guys tomorrow.